This video contains contract costing. It is in the 6th chapter named Job Costing, Batch Costing and Contract Costing in the textbook Cost Accounting. It contains 4 illustrations and all exercises of this chapter. This is more suitable for B.Com, B.B.A, M.Com and M.B.A of all universities of India and foreign countries. It is suggested to study through laptop. Presented by Dr.M.Wilson. Contract costing. Contract costing is just like job costing. The principles adopted in job costing is also adopted in contract costing. Normally, the value of work adopted in contract costing is huge amount, whereas, in job costing the value of work is very small. The work adopted in job costing requires very short period. But the work adopted in contract costing is long period, and even it may be more than 1 year. The type of work requires contract costing or construction of buildings, dams, bridges, road, railway lines, etc. The person who undertakes the contract is called the contractor, and the person who gives the contract is called contractee. Types of contracts. There are 2 types of contracts. They are 1. Fixed price contract and 2. Cost plus contract. 1. Fixed price contract. Under the fixed price contract, the contract is given to the contractor on fixed price basis. The contractor has to complete the work within the fixed price in order to earn profit. This profit is the difference between fixed price and the expenses incurred for the contract. 2. Cost plus contract. Under the cost plus contract, the contractor is allowed to do the work without fixing the price. The contractor is paid on the basis of the total expenses for the work plus a profit on the total cost. Accounting of contract cost and revenue. In order to find out the profit or loss on contract, the contractor prepares an account called contract account. If a contractor undertook more than 1 contract, then separate contract accounts should be maintained for each contract. The contract account is prepared in AT form, where the left-hand side is called debit and right-hand side is called credit. The expenses incurred for the period is debited and the contract price is credited in the contract account. The difference in the debit side and credit side is called the profit or loss. If credit is more than debit, it is called profit, and if debit is more than credit, then it is called loss on contract. Hence, the accounting procedures of contract costing is classified into 1. Treatment of cost and 2. Treatment of revenue. 1. Treatment of cost. The different types of costs involved in a contract are stated as follows. 1. Direct material cost. Material is an important cost in the contract. Cost of material consumed during the period is debited in the contract account. The cost of material consumed is calculated by taking into account of opening stock of material and closing stock of material. That is, cost of material consumed equals opening stock of material plus purchase of material minus closing stock of material. If material is returned from the workplace, then it should also be deducted. 2. Direct labor cost. The remuneration paid to the employees engaged in a contract is treated as direct labor cost. The nature of work is not a factor in contract account, since there is no need for apportionment of the labor cost. In case the laborers are engaged in different contracts of the contractor, then the labor cost should be apportioned on the basis of time spent by them in different contract work. 3. Direct expenses. The expenses other than the direct material and direct labor are called direct expenses. Example: architect's fees, cost of designs, transport cost, etc. 4. Indirect expenses. Normally, all expenses are treated as direct when there is 1 contract. If the contractor is doing more than 1 contract work, then the expenses commonly incurred are called indirect expenses or overhead. These expenses should be apportioned for different contracts on suitable basis of apportionment. 5. Depreciation of plant and machinery. There are 2 methods of treating depreciation for plant and machinery. The value of the plant in the beginning should be debited, and the value of the plant at the end of the contract period or accounting period should be created in the contract account. Another method of treating the depreciation is debiting the contract account with depreciation of plant. It is calculated on percentage basis. If the plant is hired for rent, then the hire charges should be debited in the contract account. 6. Cost of subcontract. Sometimes, the contractor may do some portion of the contract work, with the help of another contractor. The expenses paid for the work is treated as a direct expense and debited in the contract account. 7. Cost of maintenance periods. Sometimes, even then the work of contract is completed, the contractor has to maintain the work for a specific period of time. The expenses of the maintenance are debited in the contract account. Treatment of revenue. 1. Revenue of a completed contract. The contract account is credited for the contract price if the contract work is completed. The same procedure is adopted whether the period of contract is 1 year or more than 1 year. The difference between the debit side and credit side is called profit or loss of contract. If the credit side is more than the debit side, the difference is called profit, and if the debit side is more than the credit, the difference is called loss. 2. Revenue of an incomplete contract. Normally, the period of contract is extended for more than 1 year. In this case, it is difficult to find out the revenue for the accounting period. Hence, the revenue is ascertained on the basis of the certificate issued by the architect about the work completed. This value is called work certified and is credited in the contract account by an account called work in progress account. If the contractor feels that some portion of the work is not certified by the architect, then that portion of the work is also included in the work in progress account in the name work uncertified. But before transferring the profit of incomplete contracts, some portion of the profit is kept as reserve by debiting the contract account with work in progress account. The portion of reserve depends upon the percentage of work completed. Work in progress account. This account is opened in a contract account to treat the profit of incomplete contracts. This account is credited in the contract account for work certified and work uncertified. It is required for the contractors to keep certain amount of profit as reserve before transferring the profit on incomplete contract to the profit and loss account. It is done through debiting the contract account with work in progress account. The amount of reserve depends on the percentage of work completed. The calculation of reserve for different stages of completion of the work are as follows. 1. When less than 25% of the work is completed, then entire profit is transferred to reserve in the name of WIP account. The calculation of reserve for different stages of completion of the work are as follows. 1. When less than 25% of the work is completed, then entire profit is transferred to reserve in the name of WIP account. 2. When more than 25% but less than 50% work is completed, then the reserve is calculated as follows. 3. When more than 50% but less than 90% work is completed, then the reserve is calculated as follows. 4. When more than 90% but less than 100% work is completed, then the reserve is calculated as follows. Meaning of related terms. 1. Notional profit. Notional profit is the difference between the work certified and work uncertified and the expenses incurred for the contract during the period. 2. Retention money. The difference between the work certified and the cash received is called the retention money. 3. Escalation clause. Sometimes the contract entered by the parties contains a clause called escalation clause, in order to safeguard the contractor from the rising cost of production due to increase in price. According to this clause, the contractee will compensate the contractor when the contractor suffered loss due to rising price of material, labor cost and other expenses. Illustration 1. The following information are related to a contract of X Limited for the year ending the 31st of March 2025. The details are presented here. Solution. Contract account is presented here. Illustration 2. The following information relates to a contract of Rex Construction Limited for the financial year 2025. The details are presented here. Solution. Contract account is presented here. Contractee's account is presented here. Illustration 3 is presented here. Solution. Contract account is presented here. Illustration 4. Joyce Construction Company undertook 3 contracts, the work of which commenced on the 1st of April, the 1st of July and the 1st of October 2024 respectively. The accounts of the 3 contracts as on the 31st of March 2025 showed the following details. The details are presented here. Solution. Contract number 1 account is presented here. Contract number 2 account is presented here. Contract number 3 account is presented here. Balance sheet is on the 31st of March 2025 is presented here. The important calculations are presented here. Exercises 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 are presented here.